Who can you trust in a world of shapeshifters? Superspy Nick Fury is about to find out. Secret Invasion is almost here, so here's a dossier for fans before the big Disney Plus premiere. The folks over at Marvel Studios are well known for planning their release dates well in advance. However, things have gotten a bit unpredictable in the MCU, with the Marvels being pushed back several months and talks of shuffling multiple series further down the release schedule. It also looks like Secret Invasion suffered a bit in this upheaval. Originally, it was reported we'd see the series hit Disney Plus in the spring of 2023. Now we finally know when Nick Fury will reappear. The Secret Invasion will commence on June 21st, 2023. As one of the first projects of the MCU's Phase 5, that means we may feel the series' ripple effects in feature films like The Marvels, Captain America: A New World Order, and Armor Wars. Similar to other Disney Plus series like Loki, Moon Knight, and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we can expect 6 episodes of thrilling spy action when Secret Invasion premieres. We last saw Nick Fury in 2019's Spider-Man: Far From Home. While we were led to believe that the ex-SHIELD agent had teamed up with Peter Parker to defeat Mysterio, it turned out that Fury had actually been the Skrull Talos in disguise. So where was the one-eyed spy himself? In a post-credit scene, we saw the real Fury hanging out in a Skrull spaceship. But what was he doing up there? Samuel L. Jackson told Vanity Fair in March 2023, "Even Nick Fury can be shaken, you know? He's up there trying to process what the happened, you know? And what his place in the world is. The death of Iron Man, the death of Black Widow. With that stuff going on, he just kind of checked out." During his absence, Maria Hill has been trying her best to fill Fury's shoes while growing increasingly upset that her old boss hasn't been returning her calls.
I have called for your help plenty of other times, and you've been pretty content to let those calls go straight to voicemail.
However, Fury is back on Earth now after receiving some truly disturbing news. It looks like a rogue faction of Skrulls led by the radical Gravik has grown tired of the status quo. They're sick of Talos' leadership and they're pretty disappointed in Nick Fury. Jackson continued in his interview. He told the Skrulls they were trying to find them a place to live. He promised them they were going to find them a planet or somewhere they could be. And that's not going so well. Since they don't have a homeworld of their own, Gravik and his cohorts have decided to take over ours, and they've been doing that by inserting themselves into political positions of power. Now, a returning Fury must team up with a cadre of returning and new Marvel characters to stop these shapeshifters from extending their reach and using their influence for nefarious purposes. Of course, that's easier said than done when your enemies can make themselves look exactly like your allies. MCU projects never skimp when it comes to big actors and big characters, and the same is true for Secret Invasion. Needless to say, Samuel L. Jackson will be reprising his role as Nick Fury alongside his longtime sidekick, Kobe Smulders' Maria Hill. Only this version of Hill won't be too happy with Fury. Smulders revealed in a Vanity Fair interview, "I think Maria Hill has really run out of patience. She's always had this really close relationship with Nick Fury, but he's been gone for so long and she's just been running around putting out fires." We can also expect to see Martin Freeman return as ex-CIA agent Everett K. Ross, who was arrested in Wakanda Forever but freed by Midnight Angel Okoye. Ben Mendelsohn returns as Fury's Skrull ally Talos, and Don Cheadle will appear as Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes, the War Machine. This version of Rhodey will be a little more politically minded and serves as a close ally to the President of the United States. Interestingly, the events of Secret Invasion will reportedly tie into Rhodey's upcoming film Armor Wars. You should also expect to see plenty of newcomers. The Mother of Dragons herself, Emilia Clarke, shows up as a rogue Skrull named Gaia, Talos' daughter. Oscar winner Olivia Colman is reportedly playing Special Agent Sonia Falsworth, and Kingsley Ben-Adir of One Night in Miami fame plays the rebel Skrull Gravik. Landing a show-running gig in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a pretty big deal, and it's introduced a group of filmmakers to wider audiences everywhere. Kyle Bradstreet joins that list, serving as the head writer and executive producer for Secret Invasion. Up until recently, Bradstreet was most famous for writing and producing the show that put Rami Malek on the map, the USA Network's Mr. Robot. Of course, while he'll guide the new Marvel series, he won't be the only creative behind the scenes. Joining the pantheon of the MCU's Disney Plus directors like Matt Shakman, Adil El-Arbi, Bilal Fallah, and Kate Herron will be Thomas Bazooka and Ali Salim. Since Secret Invasion was first announced, fans were understandably excited about the potential surrounding this Marvel story. Originally published between June 2008 and January 2009, Marvel Comics' Secret Invasion was the first massive crossover event since Civil War that united the entire Marvel universe. The events affected everyone from the different factions of X-Men and Avengers to the Fantastic Four, the Young Avengers, and the Inhumans. It changed the landscape of the Marvel universe for years to come. Secret Invasion follows the discovery that the shape-shifting Skrulls have replaced many of Earth's heroes and villains in an attempt to cripple the world before an interplanetary invasion. This brought many of the Avengers back together after the events of Civil War and united heroes and villains alike against a common enemy. At one point, Tony Stark was almost convinced that he was a Skrull before being saved by his friends and allies. Leading the Skrulls is Princess Varanki, who has posed as the superhero Spider-Woman and infiltrated the new Avengers in the years leading up to her reveal. While the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Secret Invasion looks to be fairly different, it's still based primarily on the original story written by Brian Michael Bendis and with art by Leinil Francis Yu. In preparation for the series, Marvel is currently publishing a sequel to the original Secret Invasion series. Secret Invasion is set to be a bit different from Marvel's original story of the same name. Rather than focusing in on the two factions of the Avengers, one led by Iron Man and the other by Luke Cage, as in the comics, the live-action series will focus on the journey of Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury. As he uncovers the secret war around him, he enlists a group of selected and trusted allies, including Ben Mendelsohn's Talos, to help him defeat the alien invaders. While there may be some character crossovers from the comics to the screen, Marvel Studios' adaptation seems to be playing everything a bit more grounded than some of their most recent projects.
This war is one I have to fight alone.
Aside from the serious lack of superheroes, the plans of the Skrulls in the upcoming Secret Invasion series seem to be more covert than their comic book counterparts. While a full-scale alien invasion served as the climax of the original Marvel comic series, the Disney Plus production looks to be taking things in a different direction. It's entirely possible that there won't be a public invasion at all, but rather a continued shadow war fought by a select few. Think something more like The X-Files than Independence Day, which makes Jackson's Fury a bit more akin to Agent Fox Mulder. As the first Disney Plus series of Marvel's official Phase 5, Secret Invasion is the beginning of something bigger. Though Phase 4 was admittedly a bit confusing, especially regarding when everything takes place on the timeline, we're hopeful that Secret Invasion will be a bit more straightforward. Phase 5 occurs after the events of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and She-Hulk: Attorney at Law, so we can rest assured that everything released before those series has already happened by the time we catch up with Nick Fury. Both Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 were released before Secret Invasion, and they effectively started the Marvel Cinematic Universe's fifth phase. As to where exactly on the timeline Secret Invasion rests remains to be seen. Just because the limited series is being released before or after certain projects does not necessarily correlate to its place on the greater timeline. For example, Black Widow was the first film of Phase 4, but it technically took place in between the events of Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers: Endgame at the tail end of Phase 3. While Secret Invasion, arriving in June 2023, helps us navigate when to watch it, it might not fit in nicely with the greater story Marvel Studios is telling, though they'll no doubt issue an official timeline watching order sometime in the future, most likely as a playlist on Disney+. From the first glimpses of Secret Invasion, it's clear that the whole thing feels a bit more like an espionage-fueled spy thriller than a comic book-inspired superhero story. Whether you love or hate that change, it's clear that Marvel Studios is trying something different this time around. This leans more into the political landscape they first explored with the second Captain America film.
Don't trust anyone.
Series producer Jonathan Schwartz, who has been with Marvel Studios since Phase 1, told Vanity Fair that the series took its inspiration from different spy thrillers like Homeland and The Americans. He also cites the works of John le Carré, a Cold War author, as paramount to the themes of loyalty and identity. He said, "What you find is there are people that you trust, or you think you can trust, or you can only trust to a certain point." This statement further enforces the Cold War-era paranoia that will no doubt mark the series. Ben Mendelsohn further explained to Vanity Fair that the series takes its time to analyze the tensions between the different factions of Skrulls. He said, "The Cold War stuff is the big one that jumps out, but there is plenty of strife between groups of people that this addresses. As tensions escalate, one thing is abundantly clear: Secret Invasion is not a Marvel story to sleep on, especially for fans of spy movies and political intrigue at an interplanetary level." At the end of Avengers Infinity War, Nick Fury and Maria Hill are erased after Thanos' snap. Upon his return in Avengers Endgame, Fury attends Tony Stark's funeral where he presumably mourns the loss of Black Widow, his top agent, as well. Fury waits to reappear in Spider-Man Far From Home, where he recruits Spider-Man to help him and Mysterio with the collapse of the multiverse, except it's actually Talos in disguise. Fury is off-world. In the Far From Home after-credit scene, we see the actual Fury alive and well in outer space, policing the galaxy and protecting Earth from foreign threats. We still don't know how long he was gone, how long Talos was disguised as him, or what he was doing on the Skrull ship. More than likely, Secret Invasion will reveal the truth about Fury's sabbatical and further explore his extraterrestrial adventures. Hopefully, the more answers we get regarding his time abroad, the closer he gets to discovering the Skrull's heinous plot to invade our world. Maybe he was busy gathering an extraterrestrial Avengers initiative? In the trailer for the upcoming The Marvels, Fury is seen in command on the Saber space station above Earth. What he is doing there is unknown, but he's in contact with Agent Monica Rambeau, his old ally Carol Danvers, and newcomer Kamala Khan to help figure out why their powers are tangled and disrupted. Since The Marvels comes out months after Secret Invasion, it's safe to assume that the Disney Plus series will take place before the events of the feature film, but it's unclear if Marvel is playing games with us again. Could the Fury scene in the Marvels trailer be Talos in disguise again? If this is Fury, then we know that he survives the events of Secret Invasion and that his last line in the trailer is nothing more than a dramatic read on his most recent solo adventure.
One last fight.
But if this isn't actually Fury and Talos is continuing his friend's legacy, then we must wonder what happened to the original director of S.H.I.E.L.D. However Secret Invasion goes, we know that we'll see Jackson in the Marvel Cinematic Universe again, which is something of a comfort, and Fury will continue to have some sort of presence moving forward. While Marvel has duped us before, we have no reason to think Fury won't appear in the Marvels. In the early 1960s, in one of the earliest issues of the original Fantastic Four comic book series, a Skrull named Kl'rt first appeared to battle Marvel's flagship family of superheroes. Unlike the previous shape-shifting Skrulls, the Super-Skrull was genetically engineered by his race to copy the powers of the superpowered family. The Super-Skrull could stretch, turn invisible, emit fire from his body, and was as strong as the Thing. Kl'rt quickly became one of the Four's greatest opponents, but the same techniques used on the Super-Skrull weren't forgotten. During the Secret Invasion arc, it's revealed that the Skrull Empire has successfully recreated their Super-Skrull program on other soldiers too, pulling in power sets from Avengers, X-Men, Inhumans, and more. So far in the MCU, we have only seen the Skrulls appear in 2019's Captain Marvel and briefly in Spider-Man Far From Home. In those movies, the only abilities they exhibit are their classic shape-shifting tricks. Nevertheless, in the trailer for Secret Invasion, there is a single frame of a Skrull warrior who manages to turn his entire arm into a batch of tentacled objects. It makes us wonder if the live-action Skrulls have also found ways to mimic the superpowers of Earth's mightiest heroes. If they have, that might make this Secret Invasion just as deadly and dangerous as in the original Marvel comic books. Without a batch of superpowered heroes to face them, the stakes are only going up. Like many Marvel Studios productions, Secret Invasion was filmed largely in London, apparently at the same time as other big Marvel productions, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and The Marvels. While Jackson didn't appear in the latest Ant-Man flick, it seems like he was shooting his Disney Plus debut and the upcoming Captain Marvel follow-up simultaneously, making us wonder how much the two stories cross over. Shooting locations for Secret Invasion include Peace Hall in Halifax and West Yorkshire. As with most Marvel productions, Pinewood Studios in England provided the sound stages for the upcoming streaming series. Based on the trailers alone, it seems as if Secret Invasion is set to take place all across the globe. While Europe is likely the primary setting, it would be surprising if Nick Fury didn't hop back over to America at some point during the series run. Likewise, with a title like Secret Invasion and the inclusion of extraterrestrial Skrull forces, we may venture into outer space at some point in the show. After Spider-Man Far From Home and the latest trailer for The Marvels, we're hoping to see Fury in his new extraterrestrial element. Most of Marvel Studios' streaming series have been one-and-done productions. From Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision to Hawkeye and Ms. Marvel, many of these shows were launching points for greater MCU stories, rather than long-running shows. Falcon serves as a transition piece from Avengers Endgame to the upcoming Captain America New World Order. WandaVision served as a sort of prequel to the events of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Ms. Marvel was about introducing the titular heroine into the MCU before her appearance in the Marvels. With so many different Marvel stories out there, it's easy to wonder if Secret Invasion will fall into the same limited series banner. According to Collider, Kevin Feige wanted to do Secret Invasion as a 6-episode limited event series because it allowed Marvel to do, quote, something different than we've done before. Unlike Loki and What If, which are getting subsequent seasons, Secret Invasion is a one-off that will reportedly change the landscape of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. While we don't know exactly how it will change, we do know that the limited series is a complete self-contained story. Single films or television shows can profoundly affect the larger Marvel world. The Winter Soldier exemplifies this, but the Avengers, Civil War, Infinity War, and WandaVision also altered significant aspects of the MCU with lasting consequences. The introduction of Kang the Conqueror into the mix will affect the MCU in ways that we can't begin to anticipate. Likewise, Secret Invasion could do the same. Though the series chronicles a shadow war between Nick Fury's faction and the Skrulls, that doesn't mean that there won't be some sort of larger revelation that will change the MCU. More than likely, the knowledge that the Skrulls have been among us will become public, and Earth's citizens likely won't take that very well. Beyond that, this being Fury's one last mission also means something. While this won't be the last time we see Samuel L. Jackson in his iconic role, how Fury will make it out alive is still a question worth asking. Even if Fury somehow manages to hide the events of Secret Invasion from the world, the ripples will still be felt throughout the MCU.